Aloha and welcome to part 2 of our series on little fire ants, LFA, or simply put, fire ants. In the previous program, we showed you how to survey for little fire ants, and we urged you to be diligent about screening potted plants, cinders, mulch, and other material for little fire ants before bringing them onto your property. Now that was obviously for those of you fortunate enough not to have little fire ants on your property. For those of you who do have fire ants on your property, if you live in Hawaii and you have little fire ants on your property, I'm sorry, but basically you're screwed. See ya! Okay, that might have been a little dramatic, but not too far off point. I have here a booklet from an ant management clinic given out by the Hawaii Ant Lab. And turning to page 11 under a householder's guide to managing little fire ants around the home, it says, and I quote, "Can you eradicate them from your home? Well, probably not. Eradicating pest ants is very difficult, expensive, and time-consuming. On top of that, if your property has LFA, your neighbors probably do as well. So even if you eradicated them, ants from next door would simply migrate back to your place." Not exactly what you want to hear from the experts on ants. It's kind of like going to a healthcare professional with an ailment and having them tell you, well, you're probably going to have this problem for the rest of your life, and even if it goes away, it's only going to come back. At this point, I do have to say that the Hawaii Ant Lab is one of the lead organizations trying to stop the spread of little fire ants in Hawaii. And they're working very hard, and no, they haven't given up. They're just being brutally honest because they want to let you know up front that there's no silver bullet, no easy solution. It's a serious problem. So on that sobering note, let's begin our program on treatment and control of little fire ants. On today's program, we're going to go over some of the different methods of treatment and show you why baiting is your best option. Then we'll focus in on a specific type of ant bait and give you a 12-month treatment plan that I think will help you out. But before we roll up our sleeves to do battle, let's find out a little bit about who our adversary is.
So humans have been around for about 2 million years, whereas ants have been around for at least 130 million. The colonial structure of ants includes a queen. The queens are reproductive, and the workers are going to all be female. They're sterile and not reproducing. The males are good for one thing, and that's reproduction. After that, they die. And the larva is going to be back in the nest, and the worker ant's job is to take care of the queen as well as the larva. So we need to look at all of these different characters as a super organism. It's not about killing one ant, it's about killing the entire super organism.
Okay, we're taking on a super organism with survival skills honed over millions of years. So it behooves us to be clever and strategic in our approach. Let's take a look at what types of weapons and tactics we have at our disposal. Our weapons can be divided into 3 general categories. Pesticides that kill on contact with no lasting protection. Barrier treatments that kill on contact but have some residual potency that kill ants that cross the barrier for a limited amount of time. And last but not least, baiting, which allows worker ants to take the pesticide back home and share it with other ants in the nest. Obviously, baiting is the most effective, but perhaps an integrated strategy that incorporates several treatment methods might be a good approach also. So let's look briefly at all 3 treatment methods. The simplest but least effective method is to blast them with bug spray. This can be an appropriate quick fix if you have LFA swarming around your things. But we really don't want to keep spraying poison around forever without making a significant dent in the ant population. Sorry to use a violent analogy, but in the war against little fire ants, bug spray is like a knife. It's only good for killing the enemy that's right in front of you. And you can't win a war with a knife, but it's good to have in your arsenal anyway. Contact pesticide is good if you want to kill ants and just nuke them in a small area. Like if you load a piece of lumber into your truck and you see LFA on it, the easiest thing to do would be to grab a can of bug spray and kill all the ants so they don't go into your car. But the blast method and contact sprays are a temporary band-aid fix that doesn't get to the root of the problem. So that's about all I'll have to say about contact sprays. One note though, it is useful to drench potted plants with a solution of contact pesticide to sterilize it from little fire ants, because these hitchhiker ants are easily spread through the exchange and transport of potted plants. Barrier treatments are sprays or granules with a toxin that has a residual effect that can last about a month or longer. Insects come across and make contact with the chemical and die. So you're essentially creating a toxic barrier to keep the little fire ants away. The problem with this is that you're usually just killing the worker ants. Workers are the older ants that make up less than 20% of the colony. So you're just killing the ants that are going to die soon anyway, and not impacting the majority of ants back at the nest. And you'll have to keep reapplying the barrier as the toxin wears off and new worker ants keep coming. I do know several people who use barrier treatments to successfully keep LFA away from their homes. However, all of these people have been treating for several times a year for many years now, and in all likelihood, they'll have to keep treating for many more years if they don't change their strategy. Something's wrong with that picture. You're creating a safe haven laced with so much of the toxin that not even the insects want to go there. I wonder about the long-term effects on our soil and groundwater if our entire community just used barrier treatments on an ongoing basis. It's kind of like settling. What we really want is to get rid of the little fire ants, but we settle for just keeping them away from our immediate space. Baits contain a toxin mixed with a desirable food. It doesn't kill on contact, but allows the ants to bring the bait back to the nest and share it with the rest of the colony. I hope you'll consider baiting as your best option. Think about those science fiction movies about space invaders. We never win just by battling the alien soldiers, which is what contact sprays and barrier treatments do. We usually win by planting some kind of bomb in their mothership, which is what baiting does. And I also recommend baiting because it inflicts the most damage on the ant population while using the least amount of pesticides. So let's go into the field to continue our discussion on barriers and baits for little fire ants. Here, a backpack sprayer is being used to apply a liquid barrier treatment around a house. If ants are already in the house, it's best to draw them out and away from the house first by baiting and giving the baits time to take effect before applying the barrier. A fertilizer spreader can be used to apply a granular barrier to ensure good coverage and to help make sure the proper amount of pesticide is used for the treatment area. The granules should be watered in for maximum effectiveness. A barrier treatment can be applied along a fence line to keep LFA from coming into your property, but this only makes sense if the situation inside of your property is well under control, and the best way to do that is by baiting. Granular baits can be spread on the ground away from edible crops. Here a series of overlapping parallel passes is being made to cover an open area. Unlike granular barriers that need to be watered in, granular baits need to stay dry for maximum effectiveness. Many granular baits are not approved for use around edible crops or under the canopy of fruit trees. For this purpose, a gel bait made with Tango is a better alternative. Unlike granules, a gel bait can be squirted up into trees and onto tall grasses and shrubs. Although Tango can be used around food plants, you should avoid spraying onto flowers since it can have a negative impact on bees. On this particular day, little fire ants were observed feeding on droplets of gel bait less than a minute after application. I take that as a thumbs up from the ants that they like the Hawai'i Ant Lab's gel bait recipe. We have a lot of bugs in Hawaii, and store shelves are usually stocked with a wide array of pesticides, and not all of them are created equal in terms of application, shelf life, safety, weather resistance, and even the type of ant that they're meant to control. Hopefully by now you at least know the difference between a contact pesticide, a barrier treatment, and a bait. And this basic knowledge should help you out when you talk to the folks that work at the stores that sell these products. It's beyond the scope of this program to give you the pros and cons of all the treatments available for little fire ants, but here are a few general things that you should be aware of. First, make sure you buy something that works for LFA. Now this might sound like a no-brainer, but a lot of the things you hear about might be brand names instead of the active ingredient, and there might be a lot of different products under the same brand name, like herbicides, slug bait, or even treatments for other types of fire ants. Second, read the label. Make sure it's appropriate for your particular situation. For instance, if you have a vegetable garden or fruit trees, not all products will be approved for use on those types of plants. And third, know how it works. Both barrier treatments and baits can come in granular form, but they need to be used and applied quite differently. And finally, don't use a barrier treatment and a bait in the same place in the same time. Ants need to take the bait back to the nest in order for it to work, so you don't want a barrier treatment that will kill them before they can do that. If this sounds complicated, it's because it is. The intention of this program is to be a basic primer that will help you to go out and do your own research and consult with people who have experience and expertise on the subject. It's easy to do a knee-jerk reaction to a fire ant problem, but a quick fix might not help at all. So choose your weapon carefully and use it wisely. For the purpose of this program, we're going to look at Tango, which is an insect growth regulator. Tango isn't the only choice and may not be the best choice for your particular situation, but I chose Tango for two reasons. First and foremost, Tango is safer to use around edible crops and pets than most other choices.
The point about using, again, any pesticide, read the label, make the choice for yourself, but with Tango, it's not even lethal to the ants. It's an insect growth regulator. So my boss says the only way to hurt your pets with it is to beat them with a jug of it.
I'm not qualified to make that statement, but I'll take her word for it. Second, Tango is one of the only products in Hawaii where the label says it's okay to mix into your own bait. So we can use it in a gel bait specially developed by the Hawai'i Ant Lab to combat LFA in rainforest conditions. The downside of Tango is that it works gradually over time. It doesn't kill the existing ants, but it slows down and stops egg production and prevents new ants from being born. So you're still going to have ants until it has time to do its job. For the most part, the good outweighs the bad, and I feel that Tango is a good choice. If you'd like to explore other alternatives, I'm not going to get into that in this program, except to say that you should do your research before making your choices. As I mentioned, Tango can be mixed into a gel bait specially developed by the Hawai'i Ant Lab. It's pretty simple to mix, but it does take effort on your part. Instructions for mixing the gel bait can be found at the Hawai'i Ant Lab website, littlefireants.com. You can also search YouTube under my name, Keoni Fujitani, and it'll take you to my YouTube channel where you'll find a video on how to mix gel bait. If you don't have access to a computer, you can always call the Hawai'i Ant Lab for more information. Follow the instructions carefully, because if you don't mix the bait correctly, the ants might not want to eat it. And only mix enough for use in one day, because it doesn't keep for long periods of time. LFA are so resilient, and there's so many of them, that if you just hit them one time, they're gonna come back. So you have to keep knocking them down again and again until less and less of them start coming back.
Using any of these pesticides is not a one-time silver bullet thing. So we recommend sticking with a treatment plan for a 12-month period and then reassessing your situation.
Different pesticides or a combination of products will each have their own treatment plans. For just Tango with gel bait, treat every 4 to 6 weeks for at least a 12-month period. Results may vary and you may have to treat for more than 12 months, but you should be seeing measurable results after a 12-month period. And be sure to stick with the treatment plan. Treating too often or waiting too long between treatments is not good. And even if you see the ants going away, continue treating for the 12-month period just to make sure. And the plan of action isn't just getting rid of the ants, it's trying to keep them from coming back. So there's other things that you can and should be doing in addition to treating with pesticides.
So I really like integrated pest management. There's not really one thing that you're going to do that's going to solve your problem. It's going to be a series of things that you need to do, not only just to solve your problem, but to prevent yourself from getting into this situation again.
One fairly easy thing to do is to clean up places around your property that provide ideal nesting areas for LFA. Now, this doesn't mean you should turn your lot into a basketball court, but there are probably lots of places you can clean up and make less friendly to LFA without compromising your lifestyle. Get rid of leaf litter, piles of lumber, unnecessary weeds, or anything that provides nooks and crannies with moist, shady areas for nesting. And you should also quarantine things coming onto your property and things going out to make sure there are no little fire ant stowaways. Earlier in the program, we heard how the entire colony of ants works together as one superorganism. So let's take a page out of the ant playbook and look at the LFA problem as a collective effort. Just one person out there swatting away isn't going to get it done. If you've made it this far in the program, then you're probably serious about attacking your little fire ant problem. I commend you for that, and I urge you to get your neighbors involved too. Together, let's take out this pest, acre by acre, nest by nest. In closing, I'd like to say that I really don't like to use pesticides. I don't even have a can of Raid in my house. So to do a program on pesticide treatment was really pushing the envelope. But the little fire ant infestation in East Hawaii is so bad that people are going to poison anyway. So I wanted to advocate for a baiting strategy that was less toxic and safer to use around food crops. I hope you found it helpful. E mālama ka aina, take care of the land. Defend Hawaii from invasive species. Aloha, ahui ho.